This is a Squiz podcast. We're your shortcut to being informed.
Squiz Kids! It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Good morning and welcome to Squiz Kids Today, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Bryce Corbett. It's Friday, February 4. In Squiz Kids Today, Shipwreck of Endeavour found. Man fights croc in Mozambique. Squiz Kids Correspondent returns, and the YouTuber who made a lightsaber. That's what's making news, kid style.
The lowdown.
If you've ever done history at school, and, well, who hasn't done history at school, then you might know that the ship that Captain James Cook sailed in when he first visited Australia was called the Endeavour. It's a really famous old ship, and for years there's been lots of people trying to find the wreck of the Endeavour after it was deliberately sunk, or scuttled, in a harbour in New York in the United States during a war that was fought there over 240 years ago. Yesterday, maritime archaeologists in Sydney, who are people who search the bottom of the oceans for shipwrecks, said that they had found what they were certain was the wreck of the Endeavour, sitting in mud and silt at the bottom of Newport Harbour. Hours after the Australians had made the announcement, though, archaeologist colleagues in the United States said they weren't 100% sure it was the Endeavour, and that the Aussies, in their enthusiasm, had jumped the gun. And so, a little argument between competing historians ensued. Whether it's the Endeavour or not will be known in the weeks and months to come, as more studies are undertaken. What is for certain, though, is that after more than 240 years sitting at the bottom of the sea, there's not all that much left of the once mighty ship. Scientists reckon there's only about 15% of the original vessel left. The Endeavour, as your history teachers will tell you, famously carried Captain Cook from England to Australia and New Zealand in 1770, where he charted Australia's east coast and the coast of New Zealand, which means to make maps of the coastlines. I've stuck a link in today's episode notes to video of scuba divers exploring the wreck of the Endeavour/not Endeavour.
Spin the globe.
Each day we give the world globe a spin and find a news story from wherever it stops. And today we've landed in Mozambique, on the southeast coast of Africa, where a man and a crocodile have gotten into a huge fight. The fisherman, whose name was João Armando, had set out his fishing nets for the day when he noticed a crocodile tearing at his net. Not only was the croc trying to steal his catch, it was also damaging the equipment he needed to make a living. João tried to pull the net free, and that's when the croc pulled him into the water. They got into a huge fight, with João trying to fight off the reptile and the croc biting João's arm before people nearby jumped in and rescued him. He's now being treated at a local hospital. No word on how the croc's doing, or who got to keep the net.
Pop Culture Corner.
If you, like me, are a big fan of the Star Wars movies, then you're going to love this next one. A Star Wars superfan and popular YouTuber from Russia has just entered the Guinness Book of World Records for creating the world's first ever replica handheld lightsaber. Now, I can sense some of you out there scratching your heads and saying, light what? It's a lightsaber, people. The super cool laser sword made famous in the Star Wars film. It's the weapon of choice of the Jedi, don't you know? YouTuber Alex Birkin has been working on the lightsaber for almost 9 years, and as you'll see from the video link in today's episode notes, while his creation looks a little different to the lightsabers in the movies, it still does a good job of burning a hole in everything it touches. Not least because it creates a plasma blade that reaches up to 2,800 degrees Celsius. Yikes! May the Force be with you.
Squiz Kids Correspondence.
Do you know what a correspondent is? In journalism, a correspondent is a reporter who lives overseas, or in another state, and sends back reports from wherever they are. Did you know that due to the huge number of kids who listen to Squiz Kids every day, here in Australia and overseas, we've created Squiz Kids Correspondence, where we ask you to send us a report about what life is like wherever you happen to live. Maybe you're in Melbourne, in an inner city suburb, or on a farm, a regional centre, or somewhere in the Australian outback. Or maybe you're one of the many Squiz Kids who listens every day from their home overseas. We'd love to hear from you. Check out the link in today's episode notes explaining how you can become a Squiz Kids correspondent. And meanwhile, please welcome this week's correspondent, Franca from Singapore. Take it away, Franca.
Hi everyone, my name is Franca. I live in Singapore with my family in an apartment. I was born in Perth. I have lived in Indonesia and Russia for my dad's work. The capital city of Singapore is Singapore. The main language spoken here is English and Chinese. This is how you say hello. My name is Franca. I live in Singapore in Mandarin. 你好，我叫 Franca. 我8岁，我住在新加坡. I go to the Australian International School. The most surprising thing people eat here is chicken feet. An interesting fact about Singapore is it's not only one island, but it's around 64 small islands. If Squiz Kids visited me, I'd make sure I took them to Universal Studios because it's full of fun. Singapore is close to the equator, so it's always warm. I listen to Squiz Kids every morning in the car. My favorite part is hearing news from Australia and around the world. I hope you can visit one day. This is Franca, signing off in Singapore. Now get out there, wherever you are in the world, and have a most excellent day. Over and out.
Thanks, Franca. Singapore sounds awesome.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. What did a man in Mozambique jump into the river to try to rip from the jaws of a crocodile? That's right, it was his fishing net. Question number 2. Name the ship that carried Captain Cook and his crew from England to Australia. Yeah, it was the Endeavour. Question number 3. Which country does light saber making YouTuber Alex Birkin come from? That's right, he's from Russia.
Shout outs.
It's February 4. Today's the opening ceremony of the Beijing Winter Olympics. Ask your parents if you can stay up late to watch it on telly. It's also a special day for these Squiz Kids celebrating a birthday today. Jasper from Perth and Emily from Ashmont. And a belated birthday shout out to Benjamin from Whittlesea. And it's a happy birthday to another Jasper from Canberra who will be celebrating his birthday over the weekend. And finally, a special shout out to Michelle Parton from Orange, a home educator who has just signed up as a fully fledged Squiz Kids for Schools member. Welcome aboard! And if you're keen to check out our Squiz Kids for Schools program, there's a link in today's episode notes. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up and you want a shout out, or if you're after a classroom shout out, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au. Well, that's all we have time for. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids today. We'll be back again on Monday. In the meantime, get out there and have a most excellent weekend. Over and out.